So this is today's second video on probability. If you're watching this one first, then stop it now and watch the other one, because that probability video is going to be easier than this one, and this one is going to build on that slightly, because that was just word to probability. I wanted to go right back to the start to make sure you understood it all, but a lot of the questions in GCSE will involve more numbers than just worded probability. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to look at the probability scale from 0 to 1 rather than just impossible, unlikely, and certain. And we're going to talk about fractions to describe probabilities. We're going to work out some exact probabilities of things. So let's begin. This is the probability scale we had from before: impossible, even, and certain. If we want to put numbers on those, impossible events have got a probability of 0. Certain events, probability of 1. Even chance, half, 0.5, 50%. And this is just like a number line, okay? You can fill in some more fractions if you want. Nice even number line going up in quarters. Or you can fill it out with decimals. And you can just see that this is a number line. You can put more or less detail on it. You can make it fractions or decimals, but it's just everything between 0 and 1. You can't have a probability less than 0. You can't have a probability more than 1. You could do percentages, 0% up to 100%. You can't have anything less than 0. You can't have anything more than 100. So, if we want to look at the probability of getting a red sweet, I don't want people to say likely because there's more red sweets. We want to actually use numbers. We've got 10 sweets in the bag, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them are red. That's 50%. That's 0.5. That's a half. Okay, so the probability is a half. And you can put it exactly on the number line. If we talk about blue sweets, there's 3. We're not going to say unlikely. We're going to say that it's 3 out of 10, which is the same as 3/10 or 0.3. And if we do the same with the white sweets, well, that's 2 out of 10, which is the same as 2 over 10 or 0.2. When we know exact numbers of things, we can work out exact probabilities, and we can be much more accurate, because both white and blue, they were both unlikely, but white was less likely than blue, and we know exactly by how much. Okay, so we got a fair, 6-sided dice. We talked about fair and unfair in the last lesson. Probability of rolling a 2. Well, there's 1 2 on the dice out of 6 numbers, so it's 1 out of 6. An even number, so that's 2, 4, or 6. There's 3 of them out of the 6. We could simplify that to a half if we wanted, but I don't feel the need to. Less than 5, so that would be 4, 3, 2, or 1. That's 4 numbers out of 6. Again, could simplify that to 2/3, but I don't feel the need to. And a multiple of 3, well, that's 3 or 6. So that's 2 things out of 6. And that's could be simplified to 1 over 3, but I don't feel the need to. So 1 out of 6, that's down here. Okay, doesn't like that. A little bit more. 2 out of 6 would be the next one. 3 out of 6, well, we said that's the same as a half. And 4 out of 6 is going to be a bit further on. And if we mark them, we're all right. Okay, so just think about how many things satisfy this out of how many things possible there are. So that's why all of these were over 6. And the top numbers were just how many things there were, how many 2s there were on the dice is 1 of them. How many even numbers on the dice, so it's 3 of them. How many numbers less than 5? How many multiples of 3? Right. So what's the probability of getting each color sweet from the bag? So white sweet, 1, 2, 3, 4 sweets out of 5 sweets total. And blue, well, there's only one blue out of 5 sweets total. White, 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 7 sweets total. Blue is 2 out of 7 sweets total. And red, well, there's just 1 out of 7. And let's check those. And they're all right. Excellent. Right, this spinner has sections that are equal in size. That means they're all equally likely to come up. If you spin it 15 times, how many of each colour would you expect? Well, 5 different colours, 15 times. I'd expect 3 of each, but I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't happen. Okay, click spin and see. Let's hope this works quickly. Okay. Seems to be doing it fairly slowly. It's done 5. It's got to get it all the way up to 15. Let's hope it doesn't take all day. Remember, I'm expecting to see 3 of each colour. So far I've seen more pink than I was expecting to see, and no purple at all, so that's it's not what I was expecting, but I didn't expect it exactly to be, because as we said before, just because its probability says it should happen doesn't mean it has to. Okay, that's 15 spins there, and it's not what we expected. There's 7 pinks and only 1 purple. That's way different. I was expecting maybe some 2s, 3s, and 4s, but I wasn't expecting as low as 1. I wasn't expecting as high as 7. But we've got to remember that when we don't do something very many times, then some strange looking results can happen. If we did it 100 times or 1,000 times, it might be a little bit more realistic. So, because there's 15 spins and 5 colours, share it out equally. 15 divided by 5, or 1/5 of 15, is 3. That's what I was expecting, 3. Doesn't always work out, like we said. And like I said as well, if you do 50 or 150 or 1,000, you're going to get more accurate results. That looks a little bit more realistic, but that 5's a little bit low. You'd expect 10 of each, wouldn't you? This one I was expecting about 30 of each. It seems more reasonable. And this one I'd expect 200 of each, and that seems the most reasonable. So more times you spin it, everything just evens out. Here's another spinner. Some of the colours are repeated. There's an equal chance it'll land on each section. So what's the chances of getting blue? Well, there's 1 blue section out of, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to say it's got a chance of 1/8. Pink, that's 3 out of 8. And the yellow one, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 8, which is the same as a half. And if I drag them to the places, 1 out of 8, it's down here. 3 out of 8, that's between a quarter and a half. And 4 out of 8, that's exactly a half. And we got them all right. Okay, so I'm going to do some more spinner ones. So pink, there's 1, 2, 3 sections that are pink out of 4 sections total. Yellow, there's 1 out of the 4 sections. Pink, we've got 1 out of, there's 6 sections on that spinner. Yellow, 2 sections out of 6. And blue, 3 out of 6. You notice how I don't simplify these fractions with probability, because it just makes it easier to understand. Okay, if you said there's 2 out of 6 chance of getting yellow on the spinner. It makes sense because there's 2 yellow things out of 6. But if you simplify it to a third, it suddenly has less meaning. Okay, so that's why I keep things like that. So 3 out of, there's 8 on this spinner. Yellow, 3 out of 8. And blue, there's 2 out of 8. Let's just check those. Great. And next one. Tom has 2 spinners. On which spinner is he most likely to get pink? Now, first thing you might look at is, there's 3 sections there compared to 2 there. So you might think there's more pink sections, so he's more likely to get that one. But you might also look at this and think, well, the pink sections are bigger, so this is more likely to happen. What's actually you've got to do is just look at the probabilities to compare them. 2 out of 4 is a half. 3 out of 8 is less than a half. So 2 out of 4 is more likely than 3 out of 8. Okay, so last page on this. Ashley says, I'm more likely than Ellen to spin a 3. So he's got 1 3 out of 6. Ellen has got 1 3 out of 8. Okay, so I'd say he's right because his probability is 1 out of 6 and hers is 1 out of 8. And 1 out of 6 is a bigger number than 1 out of 8. And that's exactly what it says here. He's got a bigger proportion. So 1 part out of 6 is a bigger proportion than 1 part out of 8. Think of it like if you made squash and you put in 1 part squash to 5 parts water to make up squash. That would be stronger than if you had 1 part and then 7 parts water. Ellen says they're both equally likely to spin an even number. So let's just check. That's 3 out of 6, that's a half. And this one is 2, 4, 6, 4 out of 8, so that's a half as well. I agree with that one. That's true. And that's it for this lesson. Right, so couple of lessons today. A couple of homeworks. Hopefully you can do the simple probability homework. The homeworks should be pretty straightforward. If they're not, then just ask in the chat and I will help you. Okay, that's everything for today.